You're live.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting of the Montclair Historic Preservation Commission on January 27th, 2023. This meeting is a special meeting, and it's been called with all the necessary notifications, 48 hours notice and necessary notifications in Town Hall. So we adopted the resolution 2023-01. We now have a number for it. If you could just pencil that on your copies, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. It's revisions to the resolution that we adopted just 1 week ago on January 18th, 2023. So with that, Tommy, could you please call the roll?
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Ms. Bennett,
Present.
Mr. Hindman,
Here.
Mr. Rooney,
Here.
Mr.
Okay.
Reimnitz,
Here.
Mr. Graham,
Here.
Ms. Bauer.
She's mute.
All right, I heard her here, and I'm also here, the commission secretary.
Did you call Jerry, Mr. Sweeney?
Oh, Mr. Sweeney, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Jerry, you're on mute, I think, as well.
Okay. So welcome,
There
everyone.
was a
And I'd like to
visual here.
Okay, welcome everyone, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our new attorney, Ms. Janine Bauer, who's also on the call. And she was sent a copy of the resolution with the revisions on it. It's marked out in red. So based on comments, I just would like to make a little introduction as to why I felt it necessary to call this meeting. And it was based on comments that the planning board made to our resolution of last week. Basically, the two areas that they called out were that we were advocating for higher heights, which I don't think it's as apparent that we're not. And also there was some concern that we were redesigning the overall project, which, as one member pointed out, that is not our purview. So I thought it was imperative that we convene again and look at what we had put together and go over it with those things in mind. And I appreciate everyone taking the time to do that this morning. We are working in a very compressed time period, so I know it's not easy to take an hour or two out of your time, not only for the meeting itself, but also to consider and reconsider what was written in the resolution. And I just would like to make it a point to anyone who's watching out there that the HBC promotes and wants the site to be developed. We're not anti-development. It just needs to be done in a thoughtful manner that's characteristic with the elements, the historic elements that are already on the site, which could add a whole new vitality to what is proposed down on that area, in that neighborhood. And another thing that I'd just like to point out is that this not only will impact that area, the entryway, the gateway to Montclair on the eastern end, but it really impacts the entire township. This development will change the character of the township. And I think that's important that we keep that in mind as we look at this and revisit it, really. So the way that we're going to do it today, I made my introduction. We have everyone introduced. There will be no public comment. I was going to ask each commissioner to make a statement, and then we'll go over all of the, not all, we'll go over the revisions, of which in my mind, there's basically 4. So with that being said, Jason, would you like to, Mr. Jason Hyman, who's the vice chair, would you like to make any comment before we actually go over the revisions?
Yeah, before we get into the substance of it, I just want to echo the sentiments that Kathleen made. it is within our purview to review these plans and consider how it's going to have an impact on the, what we've called out as the most historically significant site in Montclair. And as, Chair Bennett said, we're not against development. And in terms of the recommendations that we are making, I think it's appropriate for us to provide these alternatives because, a lot of times I feel like the commission and historic preservation commissions in general get maligned and saying, well, we just want to stop development. We want to, maintain the status quo. But when we lodge these concerns, I think it is helpful to have alternatives, recommended, because otherwise you're really just throwing up roadblocks and you're not providing solutions or alternatives. So that's kind of the framework that I'm operating in when I'm reviewing this. Because again, we're not mandating anything. We're providing our recommendations in order to aid both the planning board and the council consider all of the options that are on the table.
Thank you, Jay.
Chair,
Thanks.
I would actually like to just kind of respond to that a little bit. I
Yes.
respect what the Vice Chair had to say. I do think in this instance, though, the recommendations perhaps were contradictory to our overall recommendation that we scale back, that we think the historic character could be impacted by the bulk and the heights of the buildings, and we had recommended overall scaling things back. And I think that was evidenced by Councilor Iacobellis had a statement recently where he seemed to feel that our recommendations were contradictory to the planning board's recommendations, and I can see where we could have stoked some confusion by not clarifying that overall we want our primary recommendation that was put in the whereas clause but not included in the now therefore be it resolved section was to scale back these buildings and to bring it into the historic character overall. So I think we do have to be careful with our recommendations not to overstep and not to stoke confusion. And I think we erred in our original draft by doing that.
Thank you. And I'd just like to mention that Mr. Graham is also the liaison between the HPC and the
Yes.
planning board, which
And
is
there
very
was-
important. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
ahead.
Chair, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say that there seemed to be a little bit of confusion at the last planning board meeting. I think, especially with respect to building C being redistributed, having the massing redistributed, that's not something that we can say with any degree of certainty. That should be up to the architect or the developer to determine that. But we had similar concerns. The planning board had a concern that building C would interfere with the sight lines to the supermarket, to the wayfinding, that it would make it more difficult to find the supermarket from the main thoroughfare of Bloomfield Avenue. And I think our concern as a historic preservation commission, building C disrupted the sight lines, required movement of historic features that have been on that site for over a century, and other similar concerns. So I think this change, these amendments are important to eliminate some of those contradictions and confusion that we may have caused.
Thank you. Going up, Mr. Sweeney, do you have any comment before we dive into this?
Yeah, just a general comment. I have to second what Jason had said. Also, Michael and you. We have a mission, Historic Preservation Commission. We filled it. We provided comments, but we've always tried to provide alternatives to accomplish what the overall objective of the in this case the township or the developer wishes to accomplish. We absolutely want to have that place developed. We did make the findings about the building masses and scale of the proposed plan that we felt was out of character, and so we tried to come up with ways of dealing with it. So that's all it is. And I would say that I support the proposed modifications, except for one little wordage, but I think we can go through as we when we see the actual revised resolution. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Mr. Reimnitz?
I don't have anything to add to what Kathleen and Jason and Michael and Jerry have already said. I've reviewed the most recent resolution, and in general, I don't have a problem with it.
Thank you. And Mr. Rooney?
Yeah, I think that we're kind of honing in on what our mission is, which is to preserve and protect and, but, not hinder any sort of development that's going to revitalize that part of the town or any town. We're just pointing out things that are problems. We're trying not to design it ourselves because we're not the designers. But I think that we're on the right direction.
Okay, thank you. Everyone had a chance to speak, I believe, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so before we actually look at the edits, I just want to again add that we've given this a number, which is 2023-01. I just think it would be easier to find in many places. And then the other thing is that Tommy, the copy that Tommy sent you did not have the appendix, which are the pictures attached to it. He sent it to you in Word so that we were able to edit it online in Word. And when it is adopted, what we're actually going to be adopting today will also include the pictures, which I believe there were 4 or 5 pages of pictures at the end. So those pictures have not changed, and they all the designations of where they are, 1, 2, 3, ABC are the same. So we're not looking at that. So diving into this, we have no additions or edits on page 1, none on page 2, none on page 3, and we get to page 4. And it says, therefore, let it be resolved. How should I do this? And I also want to mention that everybody's edits were included into this. And some of the edits did overlap. So what I tried to do is combine them and come up with the same wording as the edits that came in. So
Kathleen, would you like me to pull up the resolution on the screen?
okay,
That'd be
that's
easier.
good.
Okay.
Yes. There we go. That's page 4. So I think what I'll do is I'll read the paragraph and just indicate what's been added, and you can see what's been struck out, and then we can have a discussion about that and then move on to the next one. So therefore be it resolved by the Historic Preservation Commission of the Township of Montclair that it does hereby recommend to the Planning Board and the Township Council that the Historic Preservation Commission shall be permitted oversight and approval of any historic element or structure slated for demolition, and in order to bring the plan into conformance with the historic preservation element of the master plan, the entire project be scaled down in order to conform to the preservation objectives of the historic preservation element of the master plan and to maintain the historic character of the town center historic district. And the plan should be amended as follows. So what the sentences that were added really just echo what has already been mentioned. It's just it just is put into the therefore whereas clause, and what's been struck out is as a low-rise commercial center. And I know a couple of people wrote about that. And in reality, the commercial center is really eclectic in terms of its height. So I think that is a recommendation to strike that out. That should be proved, that everyone should. I don't know how you feel, but I do say that there are 3 people that commented on that. So is there any discussion about this? Would anyone like to start the discussion about this paragraph?
I can start it just by saying that I think I like the paragraph generally, but I believe the phrase which you have strucken out on there, that listing it as historic character as a low-rise commercial center, that little phrase should be out. It is out, but the
Yes.
overall historic character is what we're looking at.
That's
Exactly.
very fair. Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
Okay. So we have agreement on that change, which is it one of the hereby recommends to hereby recommend 2 additional sentences, and as a low-rise commercial center be struck out. And the addition is what's indicated in red, that the Historic Preservation Commission shall be permitted oversight and approval of any historic element or structure slated for demolition and in order. And then the next phrase is the entire project be scaled down in order to conform to the preservation objectives of the historic preservation element of the master plan and to maintain the historic character of the town center historic district. The last, as a low-rise commercial center, is to be struck out. All right, moving on
Right.
to the findings number 2, which is 3.D bulk and yield. Table 1, which states maximum height and minimum setback and step back requirements adjust. FAR maximum with height bonuses should be utilized to encourage narrower buildings to preserve the historic view shed. There was some discussion. There were other people that suggested that that be struck. Would anyone like to comment on that?
It should be struck.
Yeah, it's that again goes to providing the alternatives, with the key being preserving the view shed. So, if we're comfortable stressing the fact that we need to maintain those view sheds, and we'll let them figure out how to remass the structures.
Right.
Right. Okay. So everyone then is in agreement that the that first paragraph be struck.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I have a comment on that, because the ultimate objective of preserving the historic view shed is important. And the only thing that if we left a portion of the sentence in there, it would be to leave just to say the maximum height and minimum setback and step requirements should be taken account to the plan should take into account preservation of historic view shed. Don't say anything about the rest of it, the minimums and height bonuses, but also say preservation of historic view shed. So we're emphasizing there's something that's important.
Yeah, but that was an amendment to the table.
Right.
Where we're putting in bulk standards. So in terms of policy goals and vision, that's more for other sections, and I think we hit on those sections.
I'm okay with that, because I think we, as long as we say it someplace in here.
Yes, it's definitely in there. And I agreed with Jason that it's a table and it would have to be in addition to the table. So I think that should be struck. And are we all in agreement?
I'm in agreement.
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Moving on to page 5, which is section 3F, historic features and structures. The 4th paragraph added, it's an added sentence that says would be added, all historic structures and features shall be retained in their original location.
Right.
That was something that the majority of the commissioners commented on, that should be emphasized. Any discussion on the addition of that?
No.
No?
I like that
Okay.
change. Yeah.
Okay, so we're all in agreement that will be an addition. The
Mhm.
sentence in red. All right, the
Right.
following paragraph is really the one that we needs the most attention. The commission recommends that building C be eliminated to protect and enhance the view shed from Bloomfield Avenue to the historic waiting room. That stays. The massing of building C can be redistributed among buildings A, B, D, and E. The next,
Chair, can we focus on that sentence for a second? Because I believe that
Yes.
should probably be eliminated as well. If the developer or architect believe that that's the case, they can present a plan and we can review it to see if it meets the historic character. But I think we don't know whether it can be redistributed or not.
You're right.
Exactly. And to your point, Mike, I heard from Mr. Conley this morning. I had asked him to review this, and he just got back to me about an hour ago, and that was his one suggestion through about the whole document, was to eliminate the massing of building C can be redistributed among buildings A, B, C, D, and E. So I'm in agreement with that. Is there any other discussion?
I would have said one more comment. The planning board, at least one member, seemed to be concerned about that sentence as well. So I think it's wise to eliminate it.
Okay.
Okay, so that the entire sentence will be eliminated. Tommy, you have that then. We're straight, right? Okay, thank you. The next sentence, which is the main plaza and station plaza should be a single coherent plaza in order to, okay, great, that's in there, to protect, we've changed the verb tense of that, in order to protect the view shed and maintain the stanchions, horse trough, and train sheds in their original locations. So once again, we're talking about the protecting the view shed and also about the historic elements that we feel should remain in their original location. Would anyone like to comment on that?
No.
And to clarify, the highlights in here were changes from another commissioner, right? Just to track them
Right.
Yes.
separately. Okay.
Yes,
So when
yes,
I
I
send-
could explain that some commissioners I had a text conversation with, some commissioners I had a telephone conversation with, and some commissioners did this on the editing. And it is my non-skill with edit in Word that made that necessary. So I apologize if it's not something I know Tommy would be able to do in about 5 minutes. Yes, so you're absolutely right, Tommy.
Okay, I just
So,
wanted to clarify that. And then what I was gonna say is when we're done making these edits is I'll remove these highlights and just have
Uh-huh.
a redlined version that we can send and then a clean version that we can send.
Okay.
So that council can see where the changes were made.
okay, so this paragraph will read, the commission recommends that building C be eliminated to protect and enhance the view shed from Bloomfield Avenue to the historic waiting room. The main plaza and station plaza should be a single coherent plaza in order to protect the view shed and maintain the stanchions, horse trough, train sheds in their original locations. At a minimum, the commission recommends that the base dimensions of building C be substantially reduced or the design of the building be otherwise altered as not to interfere with the historic view shed to the waiting room building. Now, that last sentence, how do you feel about that at a minimum? Is that too, are we overstepping our purview in terms of design with that?
I don't think so. I think we're simply stating that we need this plan to change so that we can see the view shed, and whatever plan is presented, we would have to review that to make sure that it's satisfied, that it's consistent with the historic element of the master plan. I don't think it's out of bounds to say reduce and then we can review an alternative plan. Anybody disagree?
No.
No, I don't disagree.
I don't disagree, but that last sentence, the view shed is more than just to the waiting room building, I think. We're talking about the other historic features, which we've just identified above. So,
Oh, yeah.
so
That's
I
right.
think,
Yeah. Good point, Jerry.
yeah.
Yeah,
Either
that's a
Yeah.
we
good
end
point.
it at
Great
view
point.
shed,
Just
or
talking,
or
ended
add
a
the
view shed
to the historic features.
and historic features.
All right, so not interfere with the historic view. Well, we
The
should have to
historic
say
view
not to
shed to the
interfere with
waiting room
the,
building and the historic features. Just add and the historic features to the end.
Jason, say that again, please.
Just add and the historic features.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Or Tommy put identified historic features, because then
Yeah,
it'll
that's
call
fine.
back to what we,
Yes.
Do we call them elements?
Specify.
Does it matter? I don't know if it matters, but maybe we want to be more specific. Do we call them historic elements earlier or historic resources earlier? What do we identify
We
them as?
call them historic structures and features.
So maybe we should say
So-
historic structures and features.
Okay.
The other historic structures and features.
Okay.
Identified historic.
Identified,
Yeah.
identified,
The identified
historic
historic structures and features. Okay.
which is in the paragraph that we've added.
Right,
No, which is the second paragraph up from that.
right, right.
Page number 6 remains the same as this page number 7.
Okay.
And then we have the appendix, which are pictures. Does anyone else have any other discussion with what we've anything else beyond what we've talked about here today? No?
No,
Okay, great. So before we adopt this, I just want to ask Tommy, and procedurally, and maybe I will ask Janine to weigh in on this. This is a resolution that we are revisiting. As such, should it go to the council? Because the council will weigh in, will look at this, they'll read this before they make their decision. Is it necessary to have the red lines in that to see what we've changed on this revised resolution? Or I think it might just be confusing. That's
Oh,
what.
the reason,
think
so
it's-
I was thinking we provide both a clean and a redlined version because the council already received your first resolution.
Oh,
It's already
okay.
been distributed to them, so it may be helpful for some of them to see, well, they revised it. How did they revise it? What did they change?
I think
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize, I just thought it went to the planning board. I didn't realize the council had already received it.
It was,
Yeah.
it was sent to
Went to-
both, and as I understand, planning board, we can't send it to the planning board at this point. It will just go
It's
straight to
late.
council.
Yeah, we
Right.
spoke about that at the meeting, and the discussion was that we wouldn't have time as a planning board to review it and incorporate it. So it just made sense to send the two separate reports. And the planning board made a note that in the planning board report that the council should carefully consider the recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission. They generally stated that.
Okay.
so
I was
Tommy,
trying
why
to-
don't we do this? This resolution that we're gonna approve, can you just change the heading from Historic Preservation Commission recommendations for the Lackawanna Plaza to Historic Preservation Commission amended recommendations?
I think
Okay.
that's what you should do.
And again,
And
this is
then-
this is the redlined version,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
can turn that back to,
And then if we go down in the whereas clause, I guess maybe the last, at the end of the whereas clauses, we'll just add a paragraph. Where it's like, whereas the commission submitted its recommendations to the planning board, and then we'll put the dates and the ID, the original recommendation.
Oh, that's good.
And the planning board having reviewed and commented on those recommendations.
Mhm.
commented on, you said?
Yeah, commented on the commission's recommendations, comma, the commission, I don't want to say reconsider, but the commission has the following, the commission has amended its recommendations to clarify its position with respect to its review.
That's fine. The main thing is to say to clarify its recommendations, as we didn't change our findings.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're clarifying it for the benefit of the council.
Right,
And
okay.
add the date, add today's date to that statement too. On,
I don't think you have to say who you're doing it for, what benefit. It's for the benefit of everybody.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be listened to by the planning board, the council, the press, and picked up by others, including those sponsoring resolutions to support the plan as is.
Tommy, can you read that back, please?
Yes. Okay. And I'll get that date. It was the 19th because it was
and,
last.
and Tommy, I would say with respect to the redevelopment plan, not this proposal, I just think we should keep the same
Phrasing,
Yeah.
terminology.
We've been
Same
referring to it
terminology,
as
thank
the
you.
plan, correct?
I think
Yeah.
the plan would work.
Okay. Whereas, so there's a new whereas clause added to address today's meeting, basically. It says, whereas the commission submitted its recommendations to the planning board in a resolution dated January 19th, 2023, and the planning board having reviewed and commented on the commission's recommendations, the commission has amended its you may need to reword this.
Has amended its resolution or its findings.
I think has amended the resolution
The
Oh,
resolution.
meeting to clarify the recommendation, because like as Jerry pointed out, our recommendations largely are the same. We're just cleaning up a couple points.
Right.
Well, and our findings didn't change.
Right.
Do you have that, Tommy?
Yeah, but I think there's something grammatically wrong here. I'm trying to figure out. The planning board
Oh,
and maybe following the planning board's review.
I think it was okay. Wait,
I think you can say has adopted this resolution. It's small for me.
do we need to say and the planning board having reviewed and commented, because it was I don't know that was the impetus for us making the changes. I think it was our own determination.
okay, so take that phrase out and put the commission submitted its recommendations to the planning board in a
And the
resolution
council,
dated.
yeah, and the council, right? It was said to
And the
both.
count, yeah.
Right. And the commission has amended the resolution as special meeting, yes, to clarify its recommendations with respect to the redevelopment plan. It's called the Lackawanna redevelopment plan, correct?
I think plan we defined earlier.
Yeah, right here.
Lackawanna Plaza redevelopment plan.
Oh, we define it as the plan, so,
That's
okay.
the plan.
Right.
That's fine.
Defined earlier.
Okay,
You have to put another and after this whereas paragraph.
Oh, yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. All right, any other comments? Because I would like to ask Ms. Bauer to comment on what we've, she has any suggestions or,
Yeah, before we get to her, I do,
Okay.
normally we don't revise our resolution,
no,
but what, in this case, we're doing it because we received a number of questions and inquiries. And so that this is an effort to clarify. The questions and comments and inquiries were related to the prior resolution. So that just sort of sets it up as this was an effort to respond to them. We don't have to say that, but I would just historically note that having received a number of questions and inquiries regarding the resolution, and then you finish it the way it is. Does that make sense? I'm just suggesting we
You're not
add.
adding anything. You're just making a comment, correct, Jerry?
Well, no, I'm requesting that you add something so that it gives the explanation why we're adopting a new resolution. That is,
Just-
having received some questions and inquiries regarding our recommendations, has adopted the amended resolution to clarify our recommendations.
You're saying add that phrase into the last whereas?
Yes, I'm saying add something of that so people have an understanding why we've adopted a new resolution
Oh,
or amended resolution.
okay. Commission submitted the recommendation to planning board council resolution.
And I was saying
We already say to clarify.
In response
In response, yeah, that's good.
to,
Questions.
Is it necessary? Because I also was thinking, in part when, reading the public statement from Councilor Yacobelis that, we have some work to do to clarify and clean up contradictions. So it's not one particular motive. And I don't think motive is necessarily, we don't necessarily have to provide it. We just think this resolution should supersede the last one. I don't think we really need, a specific reason to do it, do we?
Yeah, I
No,
agree. I
because-
don't think we need to put our motivations. It's that,
No, just
it's really just procedurally, we did one resolution, it went to the planning board, we're amending it.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I don't think we need to put motive into it
And there's
either.
multiple motives, yeah.
And we throughout the whole document, we're saying to preserve and the historic elements. So I don't think we need anyone else have an opinion on that?
No.
No? All right, now if all of our discussion is ended, can we ask Ms. Bauer if she has any recommendations for this? Any comments, rather?
So my only comment with respect to the language that you just added is it's a little confusing to say has amended in the resolution in which you are amending. So I would forget about the past or the past perfect tense that you have in there and just say now amends
Yeah.
instead of has
Oh.
amended. Now,
Right.
and because that matches now be it therefore resolved in the paragraph below, which is the enacting clause or paragraph.
Oh, good. Okay.
And otherwise, I mean, your objectives, I think, were clarified, well, and obviously those are your decisions. I don't make historic preservation, decisions or comment on opinions or anything like that. I just comment on the law. But the one thing I would say, I know you announced at the beginning of the meeting that there would be no public comment. I'm not aware of the special meeting being an exception to the law that requires public comment at every public meeting of a local governmental body. So regardless of whether there's anybody in attendance or not, I would just call for public comment. And if there isn't any, then you can close public comment.
Okay. I thought that it was up to the chair to decide whether or not to allow public comment.
No, that's definitely.
Okay. Well, I just thought being that this was our resolution, I understand what you're saying. So rather than argue with that point, I'd just like to say the reason I did not allow public comment was because I thought it was a discussion amongst ourselves. And but if you're saying that that's the law, then I guess we could change it midstream now and say that we allow public comment right now?
Well, it's a little awkward for sure, but I mean, I don't have that in front of me and I didn't anticipate this question coming up, so I apologize for that. But I think it's better safe than sorry to have like an unforced error. I wouldn't want somebody to say we didn't take public comment when we were supposed to. it's a little bit like, oops, I'm sorry, but now I'll fix it, but it's better than nothing.
Right. Okay, so
well,
then,
I can unmute
Ja-
the attendees that we have.
okay.
So
Is there anybody on the phone that would like to make a public comment? And if so, please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less.
the
And then when you get
attendees-
on, please identify yourself.
the attendees are unmuted, and if they're watching this on YouTube or on their TV, if they could mute that before they speak. I'm keeping my eye on the chat as well to see if anybody is having issues.
No? Do we give enough time? Do we give enough time?
I haven't heard anything.
Okay. Well, having nobody call in, we'll close the public comment session at this time. And I think we're all good with our revised amendment, revised resolution rather, 2023-01. Now we need a motion to, I'm gonna hand this over to Jason at this time, because,
So you, yeah, are you calling for a motion? Would you like me to make the motion?
make the motion, please.
Okay,
Make
I'll
the
make a
motion. And then-
motion to approve the resolution as amended and um, displayed by the commission secretary, um, uh, both in its red line form and a clean finalized version to be submitted to the commission.
Thank you. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Great work. Thank you, Janine, for adding to the discussion, and thank you, Tommy, for everything you do in the office. It's really important. So is there anything further to discuss? Otherwise, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
Or were we going to discuss the demo ordinance?
That will be at the February
Okay.
meeting.
That's
Gotcha.
February
Okay.
meeting. Okay, so any a motion to adjourn, please. I make a motion to adjourn. How about second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, again, thank you very much, and we will see you at our next meeting in February.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Thank you.
And
Bye-bye,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay.
Bye.